Welcome to episode 7 of the Sustainable Tech Partner Podcast, hosted by Joe Panettieri. Today's guest is Daniel Ellis, CEO of EPX Technical Services, an MSP in the United Kingdom. During a rooftop meeting in Venice, Italy, we discuss how Ellis expanded into electric vehicle charging networks and how he also launched a power management software platform for PCs and more. Daniel, great to see you.
Likewise. Fantastic to meet you.
Thank you so much for making this happen.
Thank you for taking your vacation at the same time as me.
Yeah, unbelievable. So through a series of coincidences, for those who don't know, I'm based in New York. Daniel's based in the UK. And somehow we met 3 weeks ago over Zoom, and we discovered we're both going to be in Venice for a few hours the exact same day. And it's only a few hours.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm off soon.
Fantastic. So thank you for carving out the time and bringing your video equipment with me. I wanted to frame the conversation for our viewers and listeners. When we launched Sustainable Tech Partner, one of my theses was there are going to be certain MSPs, I don't know how many, but certain MSPs that get into next generation power and more economically feasible systems for energy going forward. And I was wondering, would there be an MSP that maybe got into EV charging things? And I was wondering, would there be an MSP that somehow got into, say, power management for IT networks and then began to really see the bigger picture? And through a series of coincidences, we met each other.
Quite we did. Yeah, I may tick all of those boxes.
Yeah, it is amazing. So actually, let's go through each one of the boxes. Yeah. Start with MSP. When did you launch your MSP business?
So I'm 39 now. I set it up when I was 19 in my final year of university. Okay. And so about 20 years old now. It was 2005, back when we had Windows XP.
There you go.
Good old days.
Yeah, they're good old days. And were you recurring revenue from day one? Did you understand, or did you go from sort of projects and one-time billing to recurring revenue?
We were completely disorganized on day one. We
Okay.
were involved in CCTV, building automation, subcontracting for other companies. Before MSP was a thing, it was all break-fix shop back then.
Right.
We had a little computer shop on a business park, and that was about our first 2 to 3 years. It wasn't until about 2.5 years in that we got our first recurring revenue agreement. Mm-hmm. We were pushing for it for day one. We took a while to figure out the sales process, and now here we are. It was break fix for the first 5-6 years.
Right.
Then recurring revenue. We did an acquisition at about year 8, and that helped us grow. And then we discovered the joy of working with other MSPs, sharing knowledge, sharing ideas, peer networking. That was so valuable for the company.
Yeah.
So I would say we hit MSP at about 14, 15 years in.
Gotcha. Okay, 14, 15 years in, you hit MSP, you find your stride there, you're making acquisition, which is very common these days. How did you go from that world to EV, electric vehicle charging networks? And is it for hotels, by the way?
Largely hotels, or
Okay.
anywhere that's a major tourist attraction.
Okay.
So, it's a bizarre series of events. Mm-hmm. I've always been an energy nerd.
Okay.
Just energy's always been kind of what I've spent my time researching, looking into. I was looking to hydrogen power, solar storage arrays, all sorts of technology.
Right.
But when I got an electric car, which I felt was appropriate, I realized there are no charging facilities anywhere in my town and in most of my surrounding towns. This is where the future is going to be. This is where electric vehicles are going to be. And it did tie in a little bit with the IT, in that you need the broadband connectivity and you need the Wi-Fi hotspot to gain access, but didn't need that much IT in the end.
Right.
But I wanted to do something that was a little bit better for the planet than what most people do when they've been running a business some years, which is they buy a property and start becoming a landlord and rent it out. Right. So I ran the numbers on it, and running electric car chargers was just more economically viable and better for the world.
Okay, all right, and tell us more about that, because you build these EV charging networks for hotels and other types of properties. What year did you start doing that, roughly?
That was a COVID project. That
okay.
was the start of 2020.
Okay, start of 2020. Did you set it up as a separate business, or is this like a business unit in your MSP?
It was actually designed deliberately as a second business, but it provided an accidental introduction to several businesses for our MSP.
Oh, okay.
Because we start off with a really, really good offer for the businesses, which is, hey, we'll give you a charger, we'll pay you rent, we'll pay you electricity, we'll give you a selling point, and we'll make your customers happier.
Okay.
And once we get to know them, after about 6 months, we get chatting, and we mention we own an MSP, and we get invited to pitch. So we've met some. It's actually been an accidental marketing opportunity for our MSP.
Okay. So if I'm a hotel owner,
Yeah.
is it you put in the infrastructure for me for the EV?
Yeah.
And then is there a recurring revenue for me as the hotel operator and for you as the
Yeah.
EV charger network
You got
developer?
You got it. I pay
Got it.
rent to the hotel,
Okay.
and I also reimburse them for the energy, and I tell them, put on whatever percentage you like.
Right.
But if you pick a number that's too high, I'm not going to bother.
Gotcha.
So they get recurring revenue off the charging.
Right.
I get recurring revenue off the charging as well. And we all end up making a profit out of it.
Okay.
I like win-win businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. And were there any ahas in that business? Like you mentioned with the MSP business, it took a while to get organized, and then
Yeah.
you found your rhythm. Were there certain things about EV where you had to find your rhythm first?
Not as such, but there's certain areas where I would have stumbled if I didn't have the MSP knowledge.
Okay.
So one such example is when a lot of IT companies start, they try and invent everything themselves. They try and build all the tools. They say, oh, well, I know how to do that. I can write a script to do that. And as you grow and mature as an MSP, you go, actually, it's far more economically viable for the company if we just buy a product off the shelf that's vendor supported with a tech support team.
Right.
So when I went into the EV world, there were lots of ways I could have got my own chargers and connected them white label to a server and administered my own billing engine. I could have got slightly larger profits. But no,
Right.
no, we worked with a vendor. We got on really well with a vendor, and they provide all the back-end infrastructure and the 24/7 call center.
Right.
And that knowledge, if I hadn't run an MSP, I would have sat in my workshop figuring out how to do it all myself for that extra 5% margin.
Right.
But
right.
it was that was a gotcha that would have happened if we didn't run an MSP.
Gotcha. Here's a question that's more, I think it's more U.S. trendy. I don't know if it's a trend here in Europe, because I'm naive, and you'll educate me. And here's the question. In the United States, a lot of the car companies are now adjusting their strategies to support Tesla's supercharging network, or at least the interface there.
Yes.
Are you seeing that similar trend here, or not so much? Is Tesla less dominant here?
Are we in? It's late October, isn't it? Currently.
Yeah.
Not quite November. Within the last 2 weeks,
Right.
we've seen that. It's that new.
Mm.
One of the largest charge point operators in the UK. I won't name names because I can't remember them.
Right.
But it's definitely an oil company.
Right.
They have invested big time in Tesla superchargers.
Right.
They've stopped fitting their own brand of kit. Don't reinvent the wheel.
Right.
And they've started installing Teslas.
Yeah.
So that's taking off phenomenally. Good news for me, doesn't compete.
Right.
Tesla are interested in, well, for those of you who are electric car nerds, 50 kilowatt chargers and up.
Right.
The ones that need DC chargers, the big uns.
Yeah.
My stuff, that's 7 and 22 kilowatt chargers. That's why I go with hotels, overnight stayers. I go where you need 10 hours to charge a car. So
Okay.
Tesla don't compete with me, and it's not going to be an issue.
Got it. Okay. So the third leg of the stool
Yes.
is how we got introduced, and let's save it for the end in terms of who introduced us, and we'll do a shout out then. But the third leg of the stool you've been working on is the PC power management. And I shouldn't even call it that because it's more than PC power management. But tell us about that effort so far and where you're going with it.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I'll describe the product first.
Yeah.
So the product's called PC Powersave, pcpowersave.com, and it is a software as a service tool that MSPs install on desktop computers, and it is a platform to reduce energy consumption
Right.
on computer systems. And I've been pitching it, it's still work in progress here, but I've been pitching it as PC Powersave will save your clients energy and will give you the reports to prove it.
Right.
That's the basis of it.
Yeah.
Now, there's lots of ways that it will save energy, but I'll give you a few vague ones. Things like CPU throttling, alerting you if a process is taking up far too much CPU, alerting you if you've got spinny disks instead of solid states, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But one of the most powerful functions that saves the greatest cost has been Netflix style. Are you still working? Will pop up on the screen
Right.
just about half an hour, 45 minutes once the working day is over. I'll give you about 15, 20 minutes to say, yes, I'm still here,
Right.
or no. Then I'll just hibernate your machine.
Okay.
Absolutely. Setting automated shutdowns on machines, you've been able to do that with PS exec and PS shutdown for years, but it never gives the user any option to say no.
Right.
And that people hate that.
Right.
So just automated hibernation of machines and sometimes automated shutdowns for Windows Update purposes. That's what the product does. And when you generate the savings report at the end of the month, sorry, I'm going to speak in pounds here.
Yeah.
In pounds.
In the blog, I'll do the translation. What's the pounds in the
so
UK? Yeah. What's the pounds in the UK?
For my desktop computer at home, which is a desktop computer with 3 monitors, it draws roughly between 100 and 200 watts, depending on what it's doing. Now, factoring in the current price of energy in the UK, it costs about £32 a month to run. And that's if left on 24/7, which many, many, many people do. We've run the numbers on this as an MSP. We've analysed about 1,000 of our client machines, and oh boy, a lot of computers are left on 24/7.
Yeah.
So my computer that's drawing that much, I managed to get the price down to £8 per month with this software. And that's just with the automated shutdown. I haven't switched on the rate limiting functions. I haven't switched on any of the other tools.
Right. So rate limiting, meaning if power is expensive, you could be aware of that? And
limit the CPU to be low consumption.
Okay.
Because a lot of MSPs, they simply say, well, i5, 8 gig of RAM, 16 now. i5, 16 gig of RAM, 256 gig SSD, Windows 11. That's the standard offering that everyone seems to get. They don't factor in, well, actually, that's just a dashboard, an advertising screen in reception. That's a low usage computer. Most MSPs, they sell the same box over and over again.
Yeah.
They like standardization. Well, we like standardization. It's great.
Right. But if you can squeeze out the hidden costs, that's wonderful. So you know what it reminds me of is in the MSP world, the most successful MSP, well, I shouldn't say the most successful, but many successful MSPs do quarterly business reviews with their customers.
Yeah.
Do you see a line item coming into that quarterly business review on power management, power savings, and all these KPIs you're talking about, where the MSP can show value to the customer?
My MSP is doing it.
Yeah.
We're doing it right now. And it's brilliant. You get to say to the customer in one of your QBRs, by the way, we've saved you £200 this month.
Yeah.
It's
and now it can be recurring.
Yes, and it's just wonderful to be able to go to these QBRs and tell them something new, instead of here's the latest cybersecurity bulletin about what you need. Here's the latest thing we need you to buy. We can actually say to them, hey, this thing we've installed for you, it hasn't made you more efficient. It's made you less expensive. Less money has left your bank account this month because of us. This isn't a matter of you made your staff members more efficient. You've actually got real pounds and dollars in the bank.
Fantastic. And I don't want to steal any thunder. I'm not asking you to pre-announce anything, but when I first heard about what you were building, it sounded PC focused, so like a product, but I think you're building a platform where you're looking at the entire IT stack in terms of power management?
You may know some things here. Yes, we are.
Okay.
So it definitely, before I go into it though, it's PCs and laptops, definitely.
Okay. Yeah.
One thing though, as a rule, I'm having the company stay away from servers for as long as possible.
Okay.
Because there's tools out there for server management already, and I'm not going to mess with servers. I'm more interested in the user-focused, the user-facing when it comes to PCs and laptops. But yes, network devices. There are so many network devices that switched on 24/7. There are a few things I can't talk about yet, but what I can tell you is if you go into your customers in the middle of the night, hopefully with their permission, I guarantee there'll be a load of tech switched on that no administrative member of staff, no janitorial or cleaning staff are going to dare turn off certain equipment at night because that's important. Well, not all of it needs to be switched on. Maybe that IP phone on your desk can be switched off at night. Maybe the same with your Wi-Fi. So
wonderful.
More is coming. This is a
so stay tuned. We're looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
So I'd love to ask you 20 more questions, but I won't. We'll save that for an ongoing discussion.
Sure.
Let's do more of these videos. I'd love to hear more from you. But before we sign off, I think we both have to thank someone, and that's Craig from Evergreen Services Group, whom I first met at ConnectWise. How did you meet Craig?
Oh, we've known each other for years through a few circles, but it's mostly through ConnectWise's Evolve peer groups. That was where it all began. But then we've seen him at the IT Nation events. We've met at some of the Evergreen events as well. Just been all round decent guy. He's been really helpful and supportive of the project.
Awesome. So for those who don't know Craig, We're going to put a link to him in the blog. We will make sure that everyone's familiar with the Evergreen Services Group, which is, Craig is now there, focused on helping MSPs with M&A, but he also helped to build IT Nation back in the day. So Craig, thank you. Daniel and I appreciate it big time. Daniel, great to see you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. This podcast is copyright of Sustainable Tech Partner and Mentori Ventures. Music written, performed, and copyright of my son, also named Joe Panettieri.